Hey, I'm Dave from Discs Dyed by Dave, and today I'm going to go over how I created my entry for the Trash Panda Earth Day disc dyeing competition, plus what you can do to help grow the sport sustainably, and I'm going to give a little extra incentive to do so. I'm a huge fan of being self-sufficient and treating Mother Earth with respect. Disc golf is one of those rare sports that embraces all nature has to offer while minimizing its impact on already iconic landscapes. With the influx of new disc golfers, this respectful balance must be kept between the growth of the sport and continued cultivation of Earth. We all need to be the ambassadors of the sport and reinforce to everyone the importance of leaving the course as they found it or better. I challenge you, the disc golf community, to take a photo of an area that needs some cleaning or maintenance when you play a course, then take a photo after you've done something about it and post with the hashtag TrashTagDiscGolf. For the remaining of the year, each TrashTag hashtag enters the user into a monthly drawing where the winner will get a custom dye disc of their choosing created by me. Also, I will donate 10% of my disc dyeing sales at the end of each month this year to a different organization that is helping preserve our ecosystem. Buy a dye, save the sky. So I encourage you to encourage others to join this challenge. Every small contribution can make an enormous difference. I'm a massive fan of Trash Panda's mission and its goal to help grow the sport sustainably. And when I saw they had a disc dyeing competition, I knew I had to enter and use my powers for good. There are much better disc dyers out there than me, and I'm honored and humbled to have been chosen. So, for those who are interested, I'll explain how I created this one-of-a-kind piece. Let's head over to the dyeing station. I wanted to create a one-of-a-kind original artwork for this, and I messed around with some mock-ups on the computer, but nothing was looking the way that I wanted. So I decided to whip out my iPad and hand draw what I had in my head with the Procreate app. This was the first time I did a drawing to this extent, and the results were way better than I was expecting. Once I got the final artwork done and prepped, I used my Cricut Maker to cut out the stencil on vinyl. Next was to get the stencil on the disc. I applied transfer tape to the top of it and removed the backing paper to get ready to stick on the disc. There was some vinyl that got stuck to the backing paper, but that was okay, as they were parts that I needed to weed anyways. One of the harder things to do is center a stencil on the disc, and to make that way easier, I use a laser. I have it pointed at the center of the disc, and I have a center mark on the stencil, so I slowly lower it down while keeping things aligned. Once it makes contact, I slowly press the vinyl down using my fingers, going from the center outwards. Then, once it's all on, I use a squeegee to firmly press down and make sure everything sticks to the disc when I remove the transfer paper. I fold over the excess vinyl to the back of the disc and create handles for the hot dipping process. Now the extremely fun part, weeding the vinyl. Any part that I want to be black, I remove the vinyl from. I use a combination of weeding pick tools and tweezers to help remove the sections. It's a painstaking process when there's a lot of small detail, and you have to be careful to weed only the parts that you need and to not forget anything. After the hours of fun, it was time to do the hot dipping process and get the black lines. I heat up water that contains black dye and I dip the disc in that mixture. I keep checking about every 5 minutes to make sure I get the saturation that I want. I let this one sit for about 25 minutes total. Once it's out and dried, I do a quick wipe down with acetone to remove any excess dye. I'm doing multiple dye techniques with this disc, so for the next part, which will be the glue bed, I weeded out the vinyl sections that I wanted the water to show through. For my glue beds, I use a cake pan and cover it with press and seal, which makes cleaning up way easier. I also had a mirror image of the yin-yang at the bottom to help guide me to where I should put the dye. Once the dye was laid down, I used a wooden skewer to go side to side, up and down, as well as to swirl some areas to get the wavy water effect. I slowly lowered the disc in the bed, added the heat lamp, and I let it sit for about 3 hours, which in hindsight was a little too long under the heat, and I also used a little too much dye, so the water turned out darker than I wanted it to. After I cleaned all the glue off, I removed the remainder of the vinyl, which again, took some time with all those little details. After it was off, there was some adhesive residue, so I did a quick wipe down with Goo Gone to remove it. The next step was to give some color to the map. I used a mixture of denatured alcohol with a custom mix of dye to get the color that I wanted. I slowly painted it on with a Q-tip. a little dye goes a long way. After the first coat, I gave it a quick rub down with denature alcohol to get the saturation I was looking for. The second coat was to add shading to the darker areas to give it some depth. And I used another custom mix to get the color on the trees, swamp, and other areas. The finishing touch was to spin dye the bottom rim with the colors I used on the flight plate. I also added another stencil at the bottom with some words and painted on the dye, but I didn't record that process, so it's a trade secret. So there you go. It was a very fun project, and I'm excited to see what everybody comes up with. Thank you for your time, and let's be part of something bigger and continue to grow the sport sustainably for us and for future generations.